This week, the next step in a push to improve the reading ability of Oklahoma's kids. Why state business leaders are so invested in your child's education. And the Sooner State going nuclear as Oklahoma pushes for a massive project. The chairman of the House Energy Committee answers your questions.
Stories beyond the headlines, connected to our state. Oklahoma Chronicle with Evan Onstad.
Oklahoma kids are going back to school this week with a renewed statewide focus on reading. And with a new literacy law in place, Oklahoma's business leaders are launching an additional pilot program of sorts, hoping to supercharge those skills. We caught up with some teachers who were excited after a literacy boot camp.
Just being in the same room with these literacy leaders are, it's amazing. It's inspiring.
That is our goal, and our hope for this is to empower the teachers not only during intervention time, but also in regular direct instruction time to reach all students, not just the struggling students.
Now, once again, these efforts are being spearheaded by the Oklahoma State Chamber of Commerce. And here with us today on Oklahoma Chronicle, Chamber President and CEO Chad Warmington back with us. Good to see you, Chad.
Thank you.
Also with us is the Executive Director of the State Chamber Research Foundation, Jake Yunker. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Chad, let's go back to last time I think we sat down together in this studio. This was pretty much at the beginning of the last legislative session. You guys were really pushing hard. What ended up becoming a series of literacy laws and education legislation that was passed and signed by the governor and now going into effect. Is it playing out the way that you hoped it would?
Yeah, for sure. And in best case scenario was to get it done the way we did with the momentum that was there, culminating with the governor and the speaker of the House and the pro tem signing the bill in a classroom full of kids. Really exciting, and kudos to the legislature for stepping up in a really real way, digging into the issue and passing really substantive reform on literacy that's going to improve outcomes for Oklahoma students.
We talked about trying to find that Mississippi miracle, kind of following in the footsteps of what we saw Mississippi do, which, if you don't know the story, we've talked about it enough here on this program, but Mississippi was near the bottom in the country, and now they're closer to the top because of a renewed, consistent effort that also included a high level of investment, not just from the state with tax money and things like that, but also private investment as well. Jake, when we talk about this next step forward, what you guys are trying to do here, you've carved out 10 different districts that you're kind of working with now. What are you doing with them, and how does that play into what we've already seen put in motion?
Absolutely. We're really fortunate. We've had some donors who have come alongside us and said, we really want to see how can we impact Oklahoma. And so we hired some amazing consultants who have been in the classroom and have consulted nationally, just nationally recognized experts. And so we put out an application and asked 10 school districts to raise their hand. And we have 10 amazing school districts that we'll be working with. Not just, at the beginning of the year, we've already done 2 weeks of intensive professional development, but we'll also be going in and working with their classroom teachers throughout the year. So we'll be modeling, we'll be giving them professional development and coaching them so that they can be better in the classroom and have better outcomes for their students.
So how is this different? How does it add on, though, to this other, the Strong Readers Act that we saw pushed ahead, these other things that are already happening statewide?
So it's very much a complement to what the Strong Readers Act does. We're trying to help fulfill that as a complementary effort to what the State Department of Education is doing. And so we're all working together. State Department of Education officials sit on our advisory board. So we make sure we're moving the state forward together.
All right, Chad, it sounds like this is kind of like a yes and kind of thing. Yes, everybody, now we want to do some extra thing. When we talk about the private investment, the fact that we have seen some companies that have stepped up, where are we to where eventually the state is going to need to be when it comes to that investment level that you and I talked about about a year ago or so?
Yeah, well, credit to the legislature. They put money into the program this year, significant amount of money, I think just under $40 million. And that's great, but that's going to take some time to work its way through the system, to hire the coaches that they want, and for that money and that impact to reach districts. The beauty of what the program that Jake's administering is we're starting in districts and in schools this year, right now. We've already started with those 10 schools and the training of those literacy coaches. So what we're hoping to do is we're going to get a little bit of ahead of them in showing proof of concept that it works, the science of reading works, and when you train teachers and you give them the tools, we're pretty confident you're going to see the results. And so the state has done its part, to be clear. They haven't dropped the ball on that. We're just able to, with these dollars, to move a little bit quicker and to get some pilot program. And we really look at this like a pilot program where those 10 schools are going to be able to be ahead and showing everybody else, here's what's possible when you follow the science of reading, when you give your teachers the training and you support them in the way that they need to be treated.
Are these individual schools within districts, or are these districts as a whole? Because I know, for example, I know that Oklahoma City Public Schools is involved, but that is at a single location, right? But there's small districts as well involved here.
Yes, we have districts throughout the state. We have it from Beaver to Valiant, so it's all over the state. And there are some school districts that are so small, it is, one hallway for every classroom, K-12. But we also have TPS, Tulsa Public Schools, that we're working with. So we'll have 2 schools within their system.
Okay.
And then we're also working with 2 charter schools. So the Oklahoma City side is W.K. Jackson Academy, so it's a charter, as well as the Academy of Okmulgee. So we're working with a variety of different schools to see how can we best support them in their efforts.
What's the feedback that we're hearing, maybe from parents, but I also want to know what we're hearing from educators as well, because I know, and we had the superintendent roundtable this past week, listening to them talk about it, they are excited that the state is getting serious about literacy. I think as a whole, I think that there is a wariness as to, all right, exactly what are we doing here? Is this just looking for numbers? Are we trying to, what is the end goal here, and what's the process, and how much are we going to be involved as educators? So Chad, what are you hearing from the educators?
Well, and I think you even had maybe a clip from some educators who have been involved in the process we have. This is very educator focused. The whole idea is if you give educators the training and the support that they need to go execute these literacy programs and the science of reading, they're going to do much better. And I think that's what's exciting. The educators that we brought in, and our roundtable, our advisor groups are full of educators that know exactly what a teacher needs in a classroom. And if you give them the proper training, they're going to be better at executing those literacy programs. So the feedback from the teachers has been great because it's very teacher focused. It's about getting them and improving their skills. And if you do that, the benefit to the students is just off the charts.
Yeah, and I would add that we're doing this as a cohort. So it's not us going into one school one day. We've been bringing them in to the state chamber.
Right.
They've all been sitting around the same tables, and they're learning from each other. What was your best practice here? What was your experience in handling this situation? And then you add on top of that the experts who have been training throughout the country, advising them. It's been a really healthy mix of engagement. So we're really excited about the cohort model as well.
So we're starting with the 10 districts this year.
Yeah.
What will it take? Because I know that there is, as you talked about, there's the desire to expand this program. Obviously, though, this is the canary in the coal mine. This is the test case. You want to see how it works. And then is the idea then just expand it, or do you tinker with it and expand it from there? What are you looking for specifically?
Well, I think we're getting some very good feedback already from our teachers on what they need and how we can tweak the program to better serve them. And so we're really trying to look at how do we individually meet each and every teacher where they are so they can meet the needs of every student where they are. And so we are looking at ways to improve it already, and I think we're going to see some really excellent outcomes from that.
Looking at education legislation kind of at a broader scale here, Chad, you guys have obviously had your hands very full with stuff over the last couple of sessions. Do you foresee more literacy legislation that you're going to be encouraging lawmakers to consider this year? Is there other education legislation you're excited to be working on right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think the goal is to keep the momentum up on the literacy front, and there are certainly other areas we can move into. But what we want to do is not do what we did last time, which was put our flag in the ground in 2013 and then back away from it by the end of 2015, 2016. And so I think our goal primarily now is to keep the momentum moving in this literacy direction, working with teachers and building in that muscle memory so that we know how to do this well, and then we take it statewide.
So really everything that you're going to be focusing on is just how you can support basically what we started last year.
Exactly. Yeah, keep the main thing the main thing. There'll be some education and some tweaks along the way. But for now, it's continue the momentum, execute the program right, so that we're proving up that all of us that are leaning into this is going to improve outcomes in Oklahoma. And for the business community, it's going to improve our workforce. It's going to improve all the economic outcomes that we want. It all starts with a well-educated, well-read workforce being able to work their way through the workforce pipeline. So it's going to be a win for everybody.
Yeah, I guess my last question was dealing and asking for this investment from the business community, these corporations. Do they ask, well, what's in it for us? Or do they already know?
Yeah, no, they know, and they've been really excited to step up. And what's been fun for Jake, too, because Jake's the primary fundraiser guy, we've got people reaching out to us saying, how can I be involved? How can we help? If we bring dollars to the table, can you add our district? And I keep telling Jake, add more, but he's right. It's a 10 pilot school program, and we want to make sure we get it right, and then we can expand it from there. But the interest from the business community has been really off the charts.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Chad Warmington, Jake Yunker with the State Chamber, and of course the State Chamber Research Foundation, separate things. Want to make sure that that's clear.
That's right.
We appreciate your time being here.
Thanks so much for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Coming up, Oklahoma is now trying to dive headfirst into nuclear energy. So I'm sitting down with the chairman of the State House Energy Committee to talk through what exactly that would mean. That's next. Welcome back, State Rep Nick Archer, our guest today on Oklahoma Chronicle out of Elk City, a Republican from House District 55. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Evan.
We've sat down here before. Last time it was, I believe, in the middle of the last session. We were talking about a piece of legislation that you had authored that was trying to create this nuclear statewide office.
Yes, sir.
Which got out of the House, stalled out in the Senate, as I understand. And
Yes,
I'm
sir.
bringing you back right now because while I would love to hear what happened with that legislation, there's this other nuclear effort at play that I know you've kind of had a hand in as well. So there's a lot going on right now when it comes to nuclear energy in Oklahoma.
It's been very busy, sir. And yeah, that piece of legislation, we actually passed it out of the House twice. So at the end of session, there around the end of middle of May, before we got out, we sent it back inside of a Senate bill to try to give it a second shot. But ultimately, that was a forward piece of legislation. The second piece of it created a revolving fund with the anticipation that if we were ever to receive an award like what we are now a finalist for now, you got to have a bucket for those federal dollars to go into.
Right. So why did it stall in the Senate as far as you're concerned? Was it the budget?
I think the biggest reason it stalled is because of that revolving fund. And so when you think about the budget chairman in the House, in the Senate, when you create a revolving fund, yet you allocate no state dollars to it, that's things that they generally frown upon. And so without putting money in there, I think that was the biggest holdup.
It was asking for money without necessarily the certain promise of money coming out of it.
There was no appropriation time.
Right. All right. So I'll come back to that, but let's talk about what we're working on right now. The state is a finalist. Is it 5 states that are finalists
Yes,
for
sir.
this nuclear innovation campus?
Yes, sir.
I mean, and this is obviously a big deal, but I think it's even bigger than than what people are understanding, because this would be a full service nuclear facility that we would have in the state, not just the research and all that, but I mean, there'd be the storage, the creation, there'd be the reactors. It would be literally everything.
All of the intellectual property, I mean, things that don't exist today will come from wherever this lab gets established. And
why is Oklahoma primed for something like this?
I think because of our energy background, our dominance just as an energy producing state over the last several decades. I think when you couple that with our strong workforce, whether that's the aerospace industry and all of the advanced manufacturing that goes into creating the planes and all of the pieces. We've talked about how parts of the Artemis mission down to the joystick that controlled the lunar module was created right here and made in the state of Oklahoma. And so we have a lot of advanced manufacturing. We have a lot of strengths. The lieutenant governor says we have the most robust and nimble career tech system in the nation. And so when you think about lab techs and those kinds of things, and then you couple that with our higher ed, our universities, we really are a prime candidate.
So, and you come from the oil and gas industry. That is your background. Why does Oklahoma's history and strength in oil and gas, how does that play into nuclear? And why does oil and gas mean that it would be good for nuclear?
Yeah, oil and gas goes hand in hand with all energy, right? We need to produce electrons in the state. When you think about the oil and gas industry and how many welders, certified welders, and all kinds of those occupations that exist in the workforce today within the oil and gas industry, there's a lot of overlap for those positions if a new industry like nuclear starts to take off in the state.
This would require, I was reading the proposal that was put forward to the Department of Energy from the state. They talked about when it comes to the storage, storing it thousands of feet below the surface in these deep bore drilled holes. And so there would be drilling involved, there'd be deep. For people who hear storage of nuclear energy, and we've talked about this before, you know, I mean, radioactive components, it makes people nervous. It makes some people very nervous, especially when you're drilling it into the Oklahoma ground and leaving it there forever.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't people be nervous about this?
Yeah, I think when most people think about nuclear, especially when they think about the actual waste product, you know, they think of glowing green liquid sloshing out of drums. And that's, you know,
that does come to mind.
That's not the reality. That's not what goes on. And I think the piece that most people don't understand, just from the comments you see online on social media and those kinds of things, the Innovation Campus is not to establish a waste dump. The federal government in the early 2000s spent $15 billion trying to create Yucca Mountain, which was the repository like I think most people consider when they hear this. Ultimately, that never came to fruition. That's not coming to fruition now in the state of Oklahoma. The reality is we have a lot of material, which is spent fuel. It's not waste. When that fuel is utilized at a generation facility, like say the Tennessee Valley Authority, that material that comes out of that reactor has only been used to about 5 to 10% of its potential energy. And right now it is stored on casks on site. And so we have 90 to 95% of the potential still there. When you think about that and you couple it with the fact that about 99% of our uranium is imported from foreign countries, we have a lot of material on hand here that the federal government is now saying we have a great stockpile. It's not waste. We're not sticking it all in the ground. We're not doing that. We have an opportunity to reclaim that, to add value to the chain, and to develop those technologies so that we are not so reliant on all of these foreign supply chains.
What would getting this, and the Department of Energy has said that up to 3 states could end up being given one of these campuses. What would it mean for Oklahoma in your mind if Oklahoma was selected? It's
generational opportunity, in my opinion. If you look at how national labs affect their parent states and the economic engines that they create, you're talking about direct dollars investments of multiple billions. You know, if you talk to an economic development person, they'll put some sort of multiplier on that about true economic impact. But the Department of Energy has stated in their RFP that went out in January that we submitted for that the main hub, the main campus, has the highest potential at the upper end of that scale to generate $50 billion of economic development and 25,000 jobs. Those are opportunities for engineers, for physicists that don't exist in the state of Oklahoma today, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't pursue it.
All right, and I just got one last question, just about 20-second answer, because I'm already over time.
But
going back to the bill that you pushed through that did not make it through to establish the statewide office.
Yes, sir.
The fact that that did not go through, does that hurt Oklahoma in its bid for this, do you think?
I hope not.
Okay. Are you going to bring it back next
It's already
session?
coming back.
It's
Yes,
already
sir.
coming back. Nick Archer from Elk City, Republican, and the chair of the House Energy Committee, by the way. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you,
appreciate
sir.
the time. Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Sir, drop it.
You may remember this video from May of last year. An Edmond police officer attacked at random The suspect who ambushed the officer was sentenced last month, but that's not the focus this morning. Instead, the bystander you saw in that video we just showed you, he was recognized this week by Edmond police for rushing to help the officer. This is that Good Samaritan, Brian Schulte, alongside Officer Caleb Hodum, who was attacked. Now, Schulte just received the Civilian Meritorious Service Award for disarming the suspect and helping Officer Hodum restrain him until backup got there. And if that is not the Oklahoma standard, then I don't know what is. Congratulations, Brian. Thanks so much for what you do and to the officer as well. That's our time for this week. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you back here next week. This was Oklahoma Chronicle. Take care.